Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure if people on YouTube was able to hear me until now. So, guys, we're here with the creative process, and this is our very first guest. I'm very happy to welcome you and to say that you guys have the chance to ask us questions during the whole time of this conversation. So, my dear, can you say a few words for us? And of course, present to you just like you do in the podcast. Say your full name and tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Daryna Barykina, and I'm a beauty and self-portraiture photographer. Currently, I live in the United States, city Jacksonville, which is in Florida. But I do travel a lot for work, and I am usually outsourced, which means I can work for any company around the globe, and I can work from home. So I'm very excited to share all of that because I think right now it's making a lot of sense in the current situation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it would make sense like constantly because
Yeah.
I see that people are hungry to see more from other photographers and what they do. And I think what is the greatest magic about this is that everyone is doing whatever they want in the way they want it, but everyone can have very different results. So people can see whether what you're doing is exactly what they're doing. And if it's not, it's totally okay again. But you're seeing one more approach. And I think this is the best part. So, to everyone who is listening and, ooh, okay, sorry about that. So, to everyone who is listening or seeing this right now, would be very happy to see some of your comments. And we've got some questions for you. Like, for example, we're going to discuss first off, tell us where you're based. I think this is going to be so amazing. Now you know where our guest is talking to us from. And right now, me and George, the the creators of the Fashion Photography Podcast, we are in Sofia. So, you know where we are based. Let us know where you are right now. So, we're going to go over some of your photographs today. Please tell me whether, okay, I can see some comments that's awesome. If you guys are looking at YouTube, of course, there is a sidebar. So you have to write down in the sidebar. This is very important. If you write down just in the comments, we won't be able to see what you want to say. So ask away the whole time. So, my dear, you have prepared some photo shoots for us today,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I can see that we have people from New York and also from Bulgaria. This is awesome. Keep on going. So, do you want to share with us what's the biggest secret today that we've got like a surprise for the people that they can choose from two of your photo shoots, right? Is it time for me to share?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, you guys can vote which photo shoot we should talk about, left or right. And to make it easier for you today, I'm going to ask you like this: left or right? What are you voting for? Which one is the photo shoot that you would love to know more about? Of course, if we have the complete time, like if we've got a lot of time, we'll talk about both of them. But the thing is, however, we're probably going to, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it like that. We're probably going to have the chance to talk about just several photo shoots. So I think it's going to be cool to know your opinion. Okay, while you're voting, mm, I don't
Two
think
for
I
left
can.
so far. That's exciting.
Yeah, right?
We
Okay,
got a vote
okay.
flowing. Hello from Germany.
Hi from Germany. Awesome. Hello there, Christian. So tell us, left or right, while we are waiting for more people together. And my suggestion would be to start with another photo shoot, different one, so that we can ask and get more and more votes throughout this video. Okay, left, left, left. Everyone is like left. Okay. Okay. So the right one can be like a bonus if we've got time.
Yes,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Perfect. So I'm going to switch to you and I so that you can tell me what would be the very first photo shoot that you would like um, to
To discuss,
show
talk
in
about.
front of everyone.
Well, there's one photo shoot in particular that's super valuable to me, and I think it's a great example of how you can convert your personal work into commercial work. So I think everybody would benefit from my talking about the shoot and breaking down really what happened, because at this point I have been working with Simon and Schuster publishers. With the youth division for probably 2 years. So we have created two book covers. This is the first one. And then there's also a second one. So I have these books here. You
Awesome.
guys can see that it's like a real product, which seems surreal. I have just finished reading these, so I'm super excited to talk about it because I ended up embodying or like reflecting the main character from the book, which was the weirdest thing ever because they approached me as a photographer based on my personal work. And if you don't mind, I can switch to my screen and show. Um,
Please go ahead. So I think I already showed the people the photo. This is the photo that you're going to talk about, right? Oh, I'm sorry.
mm, okay, yeah, that's the picture I'm going to be talking about.
Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Let me put it together real quick. Okay, so I'm going to be putting these.
Thank you, dear.
Here
So
we go.
you've got some comments over here, people enjoying. That's awesome.
That's so exciting. Yeah, you guys, thank you for tuning in. It's this whole platform is very new to me, so
To both
please
of us.
bear with me. All right, so I'm ready. You can bring my screen up, and I can
Awesome.
talk about the photos a little bit more. So I have started with this series, which was called Bruised Behind a Mask. These two photos, I photographed them way back in 2015, and I think it's one of my most treasured projects because I think it's very important to talk on a topic of domestic abuse. And at the time, there were so many things in the news that were really speaking about it, and that really moved me to create this project. But you know, my whole idea behind the project itself was to show how a woman may conceal her emotional damage or her even physical damage, but then whether you want it or not, cracks are still there. And at certain time, these vulnerabilities and the fractures will show the damage no matter what. So that was my whole idea behind a personal project. And I was approached by Simon and Schuster designer that her name, um, let me see. Okay. Yeah. So we had a great time working on this, but she really wanted me to recreate like fractures and openings. Her name is Sarah. And it's really, really great that I was able to pull from my personal project into commercial project. Because the book is about something else, but still in the realm or on the topic of femininity, feminism, emancipation. The whole concept behind the cover was just this whole reveal as well. Like the outside is very perfect, but on the inside, there's real emotion. So we created this opening in a different shape because it had to do with the whole premise of the book. But the whole idea was in this reveal. And it was very interesting to me that I was able to create a commercial piece based on my personal work. So that was really great because I put my heart into a personal project. And, I was recognized for my ideas. So to me, that was really rewarding. And so that was the first book. Second book is slightly different. Second book cover looks like this. Hold on one second.
Of course. I think this is the best part about doing your personal work because people are able to straight away see what you're capable of, and it's like such a big honor when a client is like, "Hey, I saw this piece of yours, and I would really love for you to recreate it for my business."
Definitely. It's pretty surreal because I always said, well, and again, that's like my opinion on photography. Some people think there's competition. I don't necessarily believe in it because we all think so differently. And I think each artist is valuable for the way they think, for their creativity, their mindset, like your vision.
Absolutely.
So you cannot compete when it comes to vision. And that's why, like you said, when you are approached by a client and the client really wants you to do what you do best, that's the most rewarding feeling ever. um,
Let's go to the next cover, right?
yeah. And if you guys have questions in the meantime, you're very welcome to ask, like anything technical, because I'll be talking on how I created the openings and like how I photographed it to be a composite later on. But you're free to ask any questions right away, and I'll be glad to answer. But you can see like a little uh, cheating in the second cover, because the opening almost, well, identical to the opening that I created on my personal piece, and that was intentional. So in the first book, the opening was very smooth, um, because the girls were supposed to be like bionic, robotic, and I know it's like a spoiler alert, but you can actually see it in the back of the book. It sort of implies, so I'm not giving it out completely, a little bit. um, in the second book, the whole vibe of the character changes. So fractures change from the smooth to more sharp, to more like a realistic, like a porcelain doll almost, because the subject, the main character, she becomes more fragile, she becomes more vulnerable and real. So the cracks become more like fragile also. And we ended up getting basically I had to copy and paste fractures from an opening from the personal work onto this commercial piece. That was the request from the client. Even hands, I composited in from that piece. I had my own hands in there. Like, it's the funny thing is that this is a self-portraiture project as well. So for my personal work, I used a model, and here client requested my likeness to represent this character. So that was interesting too, and challenging as well, because I'm not an actress and I was supposed to portray certain emotions. We were going for hours. Like, to shoot one portrait, I spent maybe 8 hours of straight shooting, just straight on look. It was exhausting, because, and also frustrating, because I didn't know what they were looking for, and it was in micro expressions, like it was so particular. But I'm
Mhm.
gonna get to that. Um, yeah. So when it comes to just the technical side of the images, yeah, the second book was even easier for me to create, because I have done the toughest work already. So I just moved it from one picture to another. And the first book cover, I suggested that this opening would not be, well, they didn't want it to be as porcelain as it looked originally, right?
Mhm.
But they didn't know how exactly it should go, and I decided to suggest to maybe go with like a more like a half piece opening, so to say, and
Mhm.
that ended up something they really liked. So I let me see if I can zoom here. So I ended up going around the nose and around the lips, and
Mhm.
repeating that on the piece that I'm holding, which now we're getting to the actual like shooting portion of it, right? Um, so to create this in general, like, let me start from the very beginning, because I think I'm jumping all over the place a little bit, and I'm
Don't worry, I'm gonna help you with some questions afterwards, so don't worry.
thanks. So I'm like losing structure a bit, but if just to begin with, I was never intended to be a model for this piece. I was hired as a photographer. So I'm putting it together. I'm talking to a client, and um, they're asking me to provide them with a model. The look is supposed to be ambiguous. So there's definitely some inspiration images that they send me, and I'm looking for the girls locally here, sending them probably like 10 girls. They didn't end up liking anybody, because it's not just one person that makes decision. It's
Yeah.
the editor, it's the whole design team, it's the author herself. So it was a very responsible, like, yeah, I definitely felt the weight of responsibility because it's not just one person says yes or no, it's the entire team that has to agree. And designer herself, she just randomly submitted my portraits because she thought I would be a good fit. I, at no circumstance, thought of myself as ambiguous. I thought I'm so particular. I'm Ukrainian. Like I'm very Ukrainian. I'm coming from the north, so my look is very typical to that specific area, which may look a little bit more. Like I'm somewhere from Scandinavia because light eyes, light skin, and a little
Yeah.
bit of freckles. But I'm not naturally blonde. I'm like ash toned. So yeah, I'm like Ukrainian to the core. So there's no way I'm ambiguous. But anyways, that's something they thought I could be if I change my hair color and if we get rid of the freckles. So that's what we did with magic of makeup and wig making. We're
Oh,
able to convert me into like a brunette version of myself that ended up being this character.
that's amazing. So you're all in this project, basically.
Yeah,
You're behind the camera, you're retouching it, you're the model. So tell me, how did the client came to the how did she, in
yeah.
this case, made the decision to work with you? Did you know each other from before?
No, that's the magic of it. I did not know her before. So I receive just a random email from Sarah and like with, all the credentials and it says the publishing company name on it. And it's one of the biggest, which is super exciting, which I didn't know at the time, of course. And I'm like, well, in the email it says we would like for you to give us an estimate on this project. We found your photos on Pinterest and we really like where direction it's going, so we wanted you to recreate the similar concept but with our narrative in mind. So I was like, I don't know if that's real email or not, but I'm gonna respond. So I replied to that, and we started talking. I needed more details, so that was very, very exciting. It was just out of nowhere, because I put my images out there online on probably Instagram, and this is how we got pulled to Pinterest, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so, I believe that social media right now is very much revolutionizing the whole premise and the concept of photography. That's just my opinion. Uh, there's pros and cons, obviously, but out of among the pros is definitely that you can be in touch with anybody you can think of in just one little touch. Like just
Yeah.
slide in their DMs and there you are. So it's just surreal that everybody can be so connected almost instantaneously, and that's how I was able to get the job, because I was out there, I was putting my work out there. So if you guys who are watching this, if you are still hesitant about putting your work online, maybe on Instagram, maybe you're like a little bit shy or timid, don't be, because there's definitely what is it called, audience for any type of work. For every style there's individual audience, and you want your people, and that's who you will attract. So I would say, if you're nervous putting yourself out there, don't be, because that will be very beneficial in the long run for sure.
I love this. I completely agree with you, because sometimes I see from mentorship sessions how people are so afraid to show their work. But the thing is, internet is so big today. So if there is someone that is just not attracted to what you do, they're probably going to scroll.
Yeah.
And if there is the right client or person for you out there, if they are able to somehow see it, because you've got to put your work out there to be able to be seen. If you are their person, it's going to click and everything is going to be perfect, just like in your case. So tell me, I've never had a book cover. So how do you approach this on the on the financial side? What did you do to prep yourself for the right answer?
Well, just like any other commercial project, they asked me for an estimate. I put it together. They had a budget, and what I've learned through my experience over time, that budget is budget, and sometimes you just can't go over it, you know? Like if there is no money, there is no money. So we ended up negotiating, settling a little bit with the amount that they were able to put in this project and that I was happy and satisfied with. And that's how it was. So I would say, like one of the things I usually do, if that's a bigger client, I of course have my rates that I don't hesitate to present. And in case they really want my work, but it's not fully in the budget, we kind of figure out the ways how to cut corners in case needed. But in case of a smaller project, if that's an individual approaching me, I would probably ask them for their budget first and see how much work I can present for that amount, right? So I'm trying to really maybe match my amount of work that I'm willing to put in for the compensation I'm being offered. In case project is interesting, if it pays little and it's not interesting, I'm not gonna do it. But if it's like a really great project that I can later maybe put in my portfolio and it's gonna be a portfolio piece, but it doesn't pay really well, I would rather do it as a part of investment, opposed to turning it down because of the monetary compensation that's not enough. So I think it's important to be honest with yourself when it comes to compensation. Like this project, definitely I wanted to do because it was something that I've never done before, and it was surreal. And then seeing this book on shelves, and it's just like, like an advertising piece, right? You see your work printed somewhere in advertising, you're like, oh my God, I did that. It's so cool. It's larger than life, and I did that. So it's very rewarding, and it's a great portfolio piece. Also, based on my personal work, I couldn't just, walk past it. But luckily, the compensation was fair, and we ended up getting a great partnership. So
Actually, in the podcast, in the fashion photography podcast, we have a whole episode on choosing the right project in terms of money, in terms of team and idea. And I'm sharing my personal experience on how I do that. And I think it could be very, very helpful. What I would do in a situation like this is very similar to what you've done. I would simply ask for their budget and see whether it's going to be suitable for both sides, and I will manage from then on. I can see that Sid is saying magazines paying for editorial is such a rare thing nowadays. Lucky you. Well, Sid, it's very important to say that the project that we're seeing right now, it's actually a book cover. So we're about to talk about magazines and publications a little bit later, but for now, it's important for you to know that this is actually book covers. These are book covers. So if you guys don't have any questions that are connected to this particular project, I think we're ready to continue. Okay, there was one
about retouching.
about retouching. Yeah, your retouching is so awesome. Where did you learn it? Any tips?
So with retouching, we go way back. Actually, I started retouching, or I mean, I wouldn't call it that, but I started playing in Photoshop even before I was photographing. I was probably 15 years old. Photoshop was becoming more accessible for a broader audience, and I was like, it was fun. I did a couple composites, and I still have them to date, and they are very ugly, but we have to
We
remember
all
where we
have
came
these
from.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, just started like that, and naturally I was curious about retouching skin. I picked a lot of information from also, I attended a few workshops with photographers that I respected that also did a great bit of retouching themselves. So probably my best knowledge that I attained so far was coming definitely from workshops, not even that much of a YouTube. But with this particular case, I had to create the depth and like bevels and stuff. I had no idea how to make it. So I went straight to YouTube, and I was looking at how people do bionic openings and like joints for robots. like creating robots out of the photographs, and that where I took that technique from, basically. So YouTube is a great source. I still use it to date, and like outside of this, I do a lot of hair retouching. That's basically my bread and butter. I am a beauty photographer focused on hair, and I always go to YouTube to find like any new tips and tricks on hair retouching, because that's taking a long time. It's not the most pleasant thing to do, but
Yeah, here is definitely a very complicated thing to do, but I think the biggest takeaway here is that you're continuously learning, and this is so important in my opinion, especially with photography nowadays when everything is so rapidly changing, and you can basically each and every day there is a new invention, so you've got to stay on top.
yeah.
Okay, how much creative freedom you had for this project? Well, this is an interesting question, knowing that this was a project inspired by your personal project. So,
Response is not much. You would think, right? That since this is like based on my personal work,
definitely.
not much at all. Everything was predetermined. A wardrobe was mailed to me. I It was all pre-designed. Like it was very, very particular. Like I said, um, because they are in New York and I'm in Jacksonville, which is again we're going back to being outsourced, and I'm doing that a lot, which I think is amazing because I can even save myself time on travel. Somehow I was lucky with clients that trust me enough to do that, but I also give them a lot of what is it, like control. So we would be skyping all day long. Like they wanted to approve my makeup, they wanted to approve the installation of the hair because that's a wig and it had to be like
Mhm.
all installed and stuff. um they wanted to know the color of my nail polish, a color of lipstick, and a tint was important. It had to be more like peachy on the first picture, while it had to be more pinkish on this. Like it was very particular, so no freedom at all. But I'm an OCD person myself, so it's actually easier for me to do it that way when there's no uncertainty. And
Yeah.
sometimes I work better with firm, probably boundaries, right? Like when I know exactly what we're doing, like a frame sort of to the
Mhm.
project, uh, opposed to having complete freedom, because I tend to get lost in this freedom and I'm like, there's so many things I want to do. What do I do? Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no freedom. That's the answer.
Okay, that was unexpected. While I'm reading the next comment, do you want to go to the next? First off, let's just share. Sorry, a mistake. So the next question is creating imagery for a book cover is not one of the takeaway. It is one of the takeaways for me. Was only focused on magazines, clothing, brand jewelry, beauty brands. Thanks. Yeah, basically you can do it all. I
Yeah.
think that's the beauty of photography. So, ooh, that was my parrot committing a suicide. He's okay. Don't worry. Um, so let's just ask the question again, whether you prefer to talk about number one or number two. I'm sorry, left or right. You can vote in the comments, and in the meantime, oh, I think you've already found the next photo. No,
Yeah.
is this the photo shoot that we were going to talk about?
Well, based on the previous,
Okay, I know that you have a third option. Do you want to go first over it?
do you mean this one?
The product one.
Oh, the product one. Probably put it up yourself, yeah, because I think I don't have
Oh,
it in
okay,
the
sure,
folder.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, people say left, left. I think everyone is voting for the left photo.
Yes, I agree. I feel
Ooh,
like
hello, boutique retouching. Hello, Daniel.
oh,
Okay, that is awesome. Where you get your inspiration from? What is the role makeup artist in the creativity process? I think this is an awesome question that we can go over the next photo shoot, which is going to be this one, since you're voting for the
oh,
left.
because I
Yeah,
already have. Yeah. Okay. So
I
that
can switch things up. It's okay.
you mean this one, right? The one that everybody voted
Well,
for, or the
this is a,
product?
since this is since everyone is voting for this one, I think we can go over this photo shoot and talk about the two photos.
Yes,
Okay,
totally.
perfect.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna answer the question real quick. Yeah, where do you get inspiration from, and what is the role of makeup artists in the creative process? Well, a makeup artist plays a big role, not necessarily in the creative process, but in the technical side of it, 100%, because makeup artists do for weddings or for TV is totally different than the makeup they would do on the shoots. So
Absolutely.
I'm very particular with the products. That's why I decided to learn about makeup products myself, and then I play with makeup right now on my own face. Sometimes I even do makeup on other models. I wanted to know how different products work when it comes to photography, so I can recommend to my makeup artist which product to use. Like, dewy sheer foundation opposed to HD full coverage. There's a big difference, and if you haven't tried it, sort of side by side, you wouldn't know. But with my approach to photo shoots, I would do less coverage because I can pick up on imperfections in the skin, but I cannot like bring back the skin texture that's covered with a big layer of makeup. So I would rather have less makeup and remove pimples opposed to having really thick layer of makeup caked up on the face.
Absolutely the same situation. If I know that the makeup is going to be bad, like for example, I'm working with a new makeup artist, because you always have to do tests. Like you cannot be a god and know how this person is going to do the job. So you're supposed to do tests. And if I see, because when I do test, I prefer to deliver no matter what. I have to deliver to the makeup artist, I have to deliver to the stylist if there is one, and of course to the modeling agency, because this particular model, they have made the time for a photo shoot like that. So if I see that the makeup artist is not working that well, if they're covering a lot, if they're not listening to my comments, if I'm explaining again and again that I want less and less than makeup and they're not doing it, what I would do at the end of the photo shoot would be, or at the very beginning, it depends. But what I would do is to ask for them to remove everything.
It just
And
not to show up on my set ever again.
afterwards, probably. But I would like to ask them to remove everything and make like 4, 5, 6 images of the model, just to make sure that at the end of the day they will have something that will suits them and that will work for them afterwards. This way at least I can do my best in front of the modeling agency.
Yeah, I totally get it. I have two makeup artists. Well, I'm guilty of not having like a very strong backup makeup artist, but the one I work with a lot, we have been working for years. Like, I can just tell her, show her an inspiration and leave her alone, and she's gonna do exactly what I want because she knows my taste. So
Yeah.
I can focus on like technical things at this time. I am having the hardest time delegating. Like, it's so true, but I'm learning. I make myself learn, because I can't do it all, and I don't have to. But sometimes with self portraits, people think that I'm struggling with that, which is true. Like, I just admit it. But learning how to do everything is useful because you can guide better, but also
Yeah.
it's important to find this person that will suit you and delegate. Like, I totally agree, you have to test. You can't unfortunately know right away. And
Yeah.
the work you're seeing from people online, all of it is of course polished and retouched, so you can't really have a very good judgment of how they do application. Like, it may be crooked, but it's all fixed in post, so
Yeah, you've got to do a lot of testing in order to know what is fixable and what is not. This is super important. So people are getting really excited about the photo that we are going to show.
yeah.
So let's get to it. And people have already have questions about this particular photo shoots. It's like, have you? I have, says Patrick. I have been wanting to do a red photo shoot for a while. How do you go about finding wardrobe? And because you're again on like kind of both models, it's just you. So
Speaking of
basically,
delegation, huh?
Yeah. So
Or
basically, you totally know the answer about the wardrobe too. So let's go with that question
dive
if
right
you want.
into it.
Hmm.
Well, I wanted to do an all red photo shoot for a while as well, so I totally feel you, Patrick. It's very exciting. One of the things that I had to take into consideration, and I didn't, so I'm going to share with you, is white balance will be very important because if you're shooting automatic white balance, your frame will be filled with warmth so much, so everything will appear really cool. So you want to have that manual control over white balance in order to get your raw files as precise as possible in camera, you know. So that's like tip number one: pay attention to what your scene looks like. When it comes to the wardrobe question, um, I usually like, if I have to get cool wardrobe cheap, I would just go to a thrift store. There's a few here in town that I really like. You can get real clothing, you can get real materials like wool and silk, and like all natural materials for as little as $7 per piece. And for a photo shoot, I can do whatever I want with it. I can recut it, I can dye it, I can trash it, I can do whatever I want, and investment is not going to be as tremendous. So thrift stores definitely my go-to source. Another thing I do is online stores. Like here in the US, we have Forever 21. There's Pretty Little Thing, which I think is actually based in UK. Boohoo. And other stores that have clearances, that have sales, I usually hit those and just get clothing off of the clearance, something that I know I would be using in the future for my photo shoots. When it comes to all red, I definitely I was thinking about the outfits I'll be using, so I wanted to show this whole duality, femininity and masculinity combined in one person. So both of these models are myself. It was easy for me to create it because I had personal connection to the topic, right? And I knew how I wanted to portray myself in both. So here, the feminine side of me is probably like more relaxed and, just I think having arms up has something to do with like surrender, but also in a very casual way. Like I'm just, having fun. And the other side is like very protective. It's, has the arm around the waist. So, and, the other hand is on the hip. So basically showing some of the like, being brave maybe, or maybe standing up for yourself, or like, more of a masculine sort of side to me. um, Certain clothing that I wear in this shoot are the pieces that I bought for myself, that are not like thrifted or not picked up elsewhere. So this shirt and the jacket, they're actually real pieces that I use when I teach, because I have like a small education program where I teach photography. So that's something I would wear so called to work. Red is one of the colors I wear a lot when I do public, I wanted to say performances, but appearances probably would be the better way to say that. And the dress is the dress that I got from the Pretty Little Thing. It was $10. It was off of clearance, and it does a great job because it has lace to it and it has silky texture, which plays with the textures I have, in the other on the other model, so to say. Um, so that's basically it when it comes to clothing. All of the clothing had different tint of red, which I had to merge together later on. So that's also something to look at, but I wouldn't say it's a big problem. You would just match it real quick. It's not a big deal at all. Patrick says I've been wanting to. Okay, the comment we were talking about. I just wanted to show you guys a few behind the scenes for this. These roses are something that my friend's mom does to rent
I
out.
just have to say something. So I'm sorry for interrupting you. I think I banned two people. I'm so very sorry for this. All I wanted to do was to postpone the comments to make sure that I'll see them a little bit later. And I'm so very sorry. I really hope that you can still watch. in just 5 minutes, what I can see, it's written over here, you'll be able to comment back again. And I'm so very, very
You
sorry.
guys are in timeout for being too active on this feed.
It is lovely that you're active. I'm so very sorry again. It's the first time that I used a platform, and it's not what I wanted to do. I'm very sorry again. Sorry. Okay, let's continue with the photo shoot. I really hope that they can see this.
Yeah. Well, it's life. Things happen. So this is just a picture of the behind the scenes. As you can see, the background is very short. It's basically enough for just one headshot. And I only had 5 roses, which I ended up duplicating. So let me bring back the photo. Yeah, so I ended up adding a little bit more of the background to the lower part of the image. And of course, I ended up maximizing number of roses all around. So that's my background setup. And this is what it looked like from the other side when I was setting up. So I had, this is my key light, which is gridded beauty dish, or soft lighting system, as Profoto calls it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a 2 feet OCF beauty dish as well, but I use it as a 2 feet softbox that had blue gel in it. Because if you look at the photo, you can see that all the shadows have blue undertone. So I used it just to give a little bit more drama to the picture. Also have a good play on this warm and cool tones, have primary colors, blue and red involved. I think that creates really nice balance. So that's what I used for lighting. And let me see what else I have here. I think the magic really happened in the retouching stage. So let me pull that video up real quick, and I'm gonna go ahead and maybe remove the screen that I have already, and I will put that video up.
Okay,
Sounds
perfect. So tell me, how much time is it usually taking for you to do a self portrait like this? Because for me, for example, it's gonna take a week. Let's
good.
be honest about it. Yeah, I don't really like to be in front of the camera in terms of photography, and I would feel really, really awkward to do that. I know that you are already used to that. However, you've got 2 different roles in this, and you've got to be very precise with the exact movement. How is this gonna look? So tell me, how much time did it took for you?
I think just 2 days, but like not complete days. On one day I shot, and on the other one I was able to put it together. Not very long, because I had a particular idea. I think I still have a notebook here where I have, what is it? Like a little sketch
Oh,
of what it
I
looks
do
like.
the
Yeah,
same.
look at this. That's it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Actually, I wasn't planning on finding it. This is like so random. But yeah, I knew that I wanted this model. And hey, look at my drawings. That's why I'm a photographer. I'm not a painter. Because
Trust me, they look amazing. Every time I do a drawing, there is like a ton of text around it to explain what I've done, because it's just so hard to understand what I've drawn. So this is definitely unexpected for me. I thought that yeah, for me it's definitely going to take a week. So tell me more about the placement. How did you deal with that?
there's like a quick question about the background. No, I didn't make it by myself. I could, but I was lucky to collaborate with a brand that's based out of UK, and I'm like trying to find their name because they just changed it. It's called Club Backdrops, and it's
Mhm.
called Red with triple R. And if you go to their website, I think I still advertise it because it's the color I requested for them to create, and it was really cool because we ended up doing it together, and it's something that I have never worked on before, working on a background color with the brand. So it's like a rustic red, basically. When it comes to placement, so because I had that little sketch, I knew that I wanted one shape to be a little higher up and to the side, and then the other shape to be a little lower to create some, transition or make it more dynamic. I have video ready if you want to put my screen.
Awesome.
Oh, it's already
Yeah.
up. Um, so this one was made for Instagram, but
Okay.
so it says sound on. We're not gonna have sound, but I just want you guys to let me. So I'm talking. Okay, this is the second. Oh, do you see what I'm doing? So what I did,
Okay.
so
Yeah, that's interesting.
that's the most important part. So I was hugging a pillow for the, for
Yeah,
the
I
big.
thought there is something like that, that you should hug something or do something, like have a prop around you. Yeah.
Definitely. So I came up with the pillow, put it in a dress just to make it a simpler transition later on. It's
Clever
yeah,
girl.
goodness. Yeah, it's funny. But and another thing is that I was like holding up roses in different places to later on put them together. And as you
Mhm.
can see, like it's this dress is not original. It's coming from a different photo.
Yeah.
And then here I go. And then the hand. So this piece had so many elements. Like if you look at both hands, that are taken from different pictures, just
Mhm.
because it was in nice enough in
You
one
don't have the
shot.
pillow, so
Yeah, pillow's gone, replaced. So that's yeah. Okay, what am I doing? I'm like
you're
speeding up.
showing us the video. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm compositing the flowers in.
Okay.
Yeah, so see the body is from the one picture, but the whole um the face and the upper body ended up
Being from
coming
a
from a
different one.
different, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's basically just a little time lapse on how I did.
You've got to be really aware of light in order to make a composite like this.
Well, I had to lower the light for the second body shape because I was standing on like a little thing to be a little higher up. Um,
Mhm.
so I had to lower the key light to to light myself as another shape. Like I don't even know how to call them. Like the other girl, whatever. But definitely I moved lighting quite a bit. But I know the light that I like on my face, and
Mhm.
I stick to it when it comes to self portraits. It's like my little trick. I figured out the angle, I figured out the character of the light I enjoy, because everybody's face is different. So you just have to figure
Absolutely.
out what works for their facial landscape. And I know mine pretty well. So
What do you think would be the biggest mistake for a person who is trying to do a similar idea to this one in the retouching process? Let's go. Okay, let's, because probably some people would be a bit uncertain on what to do during the photography process or the retouching process. Let's go over both of these. What would be the mistake that they can do?
mistake. I think probably 80% of work would be done in camera. So um, the toughest thing is to
Hmm.
create materials or assets that you would later composite together. So, for example, when I was hugging the pillow, and I don't know if I can find any pictures here, um, do
Yeah.
you see how lighting is still a little higher than I need, sort of?
Hmm.
Because I wanted hand to be lit like with the
Yeah.
source that I had for the figure that's a little higher up. Then
Hmm.
I moved it to where it has nice shadow on my face. Here it was definitely like more blend. It was more flat, sort of. And then I angled it to be a little bit more precise and give me a better drop off on my neck. So I think a lot of it is just lighting, because see how there has to be some sort of drop off happening here on my hand as well as here, and the highest or the brightest areas should be obviously the face and the upper body. So that's something to consider. I think this is a very easy composite because I'm compositing a lot of hair. Usually hair is tough to composite.
Yeah.
because I mean, you have to consider all of that, and you have to consider movement. Um, Still, I think this is my first and only attempt when it comes to placing two bodies together. I have this whole idea when there has to be five of me, and I'm not fully committed to it, not ready to work on it just yet. Because it's like, oh my god, I have to do different makeup, different hair, and I think this is the least fun part, just changing yourself into a new character and shooting all over again. I think that's something I don't enjoy, like the whole preparation stage. Shooting itself is fun. Compositing is also fun. Uh, I think the toughest is to, prepare myself for a shoot. But mistake-wise, I think wrong lighting, because parts of the composite have to be realistic, and lighting would play the key part in it. So I would say this is probably the biggest mistake, just to light it improperly.
Mhm. So, what about the retouching? What if you could have some files? I saw that you're having all of your files together around the image. You haven't just cropped them. So, I would say that this would be a really big problem in case you need to move something around and then part of it is missing. You have to go back and embed the file again, do the whole work again. What would be your suggestion for the biggest problem that you might have during
With
the
retouching.
retouching process? Yeah. And I just want to make sure that Sid and Daniel are back here and they can write down comments. So if you can, guys, please let me know in the comments. Sorry again. Okay. So, do you agree with me? Is there something else that people can do as a big mistake in during the
Uh,
retouching?
I think probably merging layers too fast would be a
Ooh.
big mistake. So I do merge, but then
Mhm.
I also keep the whole process in a separate folder in case
Mhm.
I lack space, or I can tell that my workflow gets a little slower because of the processing time. I would probably merge everything and save as a separate file and work from there. So that's something I do for composites that take longer time, definitely. With Mac, I don't have issue with saving, but when I was working with PC, save, save, save every single step of the way because, yeah, because you may lose it all. Uh,
Yeah.
that
True.
was something.
I
Yeah.
have to learn to merge more, to be honest, because I usually do everything on different layer. It's just crazy.
Oh, I do
So,
everything on separate layers too. And I think that's a great advice, honestly, because you have it all separated. And in case you have to go back and change something, you always have
exactly.
that option, right? So the mistake would be not to do everything on different layer.
Completely agree. Okay, I'm gonna put this as a banner. Let's go over the second photo from this photo shoot. It's
Mhm.
this one.
Yes. So
So
the whole setup was the same. And I did add more roses, just as I
so
did
you
for.
you created the roses yourself, did you?
No, it was
Okay,
my
it's
friend's
again the
mom. She rents them out for like weddings and baby showers. Um,
wow.
so I saw it in her house and I was like, oh my God, I need to do something with it. Like, can I borrow them for a shoot? So we traded in a way. Well, these photos are quite out there and eccentric. So I don't know if she's going to use them, but you know, it's a collab in a way. Anyway,
Yeah, for sure she has a great photo now, so
yeah.
nothing was lost. So tell me about the light here. Did you included more flowers and post again? Was it a similar process?
Yeah, the process is basically identical. I included more flowers. The lighting setup is the same. So I have key light as modified with graded beauty dish, and then I have a soft box that gives us this blue color in the
Tint.
shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I also changed the tint a little bit because it was a little bit too opaque. So I shifted it to be a little bit lighter and changed the tint a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with This is not like a composite when it comes to my body stays the same. I was able to get the pose that I wanted. The glow is basically on my skin because of the tons of highlighter. That's one of my tricks.
Yeah.
So for anybody listening out there, if you are photographing a person and you are having body parts shown, I would recommend using highlighter always, because if it's not a tight crop of arm, for example, where you can see some hairs and I don't know, some fuzz, right? If it's a picture of like a half body, that will save you so much retouching because it will look like polished arms and you wouldn't have to do any extra to make that arm glow. So you would basically get a great photo in camera. So highlighter all the way for the body, legs especially. Many people have, well, we all have different skin type, and many people have dry skin, especially like, the areas we don't really pay much attention to, like your elbows, your knees. So I would say highlighter really saves the day when it comes to the overall look. It all looks very much put together and,
Yeah. Okay. So because we're very ahead of with the time now, I would ask if there is someone having questions. In the meantime, we can simply go to the last photo that you've prepped
Mhm.
for today. And I have the question for you. Do you think that how much time do you think the second photo shoot that people were able to choose from would take us to explain?
Um, I don't have to go in depth and in detail. I can just show how the setup
Okay,
was created. In
perfect.
case anybody is curious about the set design, I can just go through. Um,
Awesome. That would be great. By the way, you don't need to stop screening because people cannot see in this moment. So, guys, please sit. And Daniel, let me know in the comments if you can see. And guys, you can comment. I'm not gonna ban you because I already know what I've done and that it was a mistake. So I'm not going to repeat it. Comment away. Okay. Are you ready with this?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's share it. This is the other photo shoot that you were able to choose from. I think what is amazing over here is that sometimes a photo shoot might look like there was not so much effort put into
Mhm.
it. But the truth is, it's exactly the opposite. It's taken a lot of time, it's taken a lot of effort, it's taken a lot of preparation. And I feel like this is one of those photo shoots. Like,
It may
it
look
looks easy, but
effortless.
it's not.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like every once in a while, I get this crazy idea to build my own set. And usually I'm hesitant because it takes so much time and effort. And I need the help of other people. But this time I was like, I had certain materials prepared. And so I had those panels that you guys see behind. I had them pre made. So all I did was just spray painted them gray because they were purple and red before. And then
Hmm.
we already had sand in bags because of the flood or something that was going on in Florida during that time. We ended up not using the sand, not needing it, thank God. So it ended up, just laying there for, no reason. And we decided to use it in a set design. So I'm going to show you some behind the scenes from this, just so you know how it was created. So the first thing we did was putting up those panels. I put them in a corner for better stability. I'm trying to see if I can maybe open this a little wider. No, no.
You can simply zoom in and out.
I can't because if I click on Zoom, it's just gonna give me like a
Oh,
spot zoom. Well,
okay.
anyways,
Yeah, I
um,
think it's okay.
so the first thing I did, these two panels were, clipped with a clip to one another for better stability, and I put them in a corner so then, in case of anything, they can lean against the wall, right?
Mhm.
Um, then we had a
I
box with
think
sand.
it's always a good idea to have nothing falling on your model.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's the
fantastic.
best part.
That would be the best.
Yeah. Okay, so what's that?
um, this is just two pictures of. Oh, this is the side view, by the way.
Hmm.
So where we're shooting in a studio area of the salon I mentioned earlier. So, a friend of mine, she owns a hair salon, and it's a hybrid space, which is a very trendy thing right now to have a photo studio inside of the hair salon because photography is blooming very much in the beauty industry, in the hair part of it particularly. So, all the hairdressers, they take photos of their everyday work of their clients, and they also do take images for hair competitions. So having a photo studio in your salon is a luxury, but still it's getting more and more popular. So you guys can see some paper rolls in here, but what we did, we cleaned everything else out. We put some plastic tarp on the floor, set up these panels. This is the box with sand, and you can see me putting sand. Another cool thing is that sand was actually serving as like a sandbag. So it was holding these panels pressed against the wall. So we were making sure nothing falls on the model. And then I went outside, and it just happened so that the grass was not trimmed. And with just a pair of scissors, I cut some tall grass, which we put a little bit everywhere. So it doesn't seem like much, but this is probably 8 bags of sand in here.
Yeah, it never looks like it's a lot, but it is always.
It is, and it's, and I was like, oh my god, it's not enough sand, not enough sand, and it wasn't really enough, but we just didn't have any more, so we had to deal with it. Um, Basically, it. Let me see if yeah, and I have just a few videos of how I was,
Mhm.
putting these things in, but that's basically the whole setup. Let me. I should have had some pictures. Um,
Don't worry. Okay, so while you're looking at them, people are only seeing us. So go ahead, find
Yeah,
them.
let me go ahead. I mean, I can talk, but I just really wanted to grab a few files. Um,
Do it. Okay. So in the meantime, I would encourage you to ask away in the comment section and as written here on your screen, because this is a great opportunity to get in touch with the real photographer and ask, because otherwise you can only guess what have happened.
oh yeah.
Like for example with the sand, you said it's not enough. Maybe people are looking and are like, well, how many bags are there? Well, there are 8. Now you know. So while we are talking about this, I would like to also remind you that there is a podcast episode along with our lovely guest today, and you can find it on photographypodcast.net along with more than 330 episodes. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to say. If you're ready with the screen, I'm ready to share.
One moment.
Oh, of
I
course.
ended up like doing so many things here at once because I was like, oh, these photos are in my phone. Let me just put them in the Dropbox. So I did all that.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
I'm gonna be ready in a moment.
Awesome. Of course, I just want to also encourage you to share this video. Even after it's over, it's going to stay on the internet because, you know, once one thing is on the internet, it
It's
stays there
always there.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're more than welcome. And I would even like to ask you and encourage you to share this video so that more people can see and learn. Because I think, especially in the time that we are in right now, I'm not going to mention the circumstances, but in this situation that we are right now, everybody is learning and trying to find out how to learn more and more. And I think this is the most unique part about the fashion community and the fashion photography podcast community in particular, that we're all ready to share. So, yeah, like, share, subscribe, do whatever you have to do. And let's go to this amazing screen and see what's going on your
So
behind the scenes.
yeah, I just wanted to show you guys behind the scenes and the lighting setup that we had here. It was just 2 lighting sources. One is again graded beauty dish, and that's something I use a lot. This is actually 3 sources. Um,
Mhm.
I really, I really like graded beauty dish because it gives me a lot of control when it comes to lighting, and then just aesthetically, I really like the drop off it creates. I enjoy the whole what is it, like a dramatic effect it also creates. So definitely one of my favorite modifiers out there. So I'm having a softbox line down here, and then I have a key source, which this is a pro photo, and then I was running out of my lights because I only own two pro photos, but I had some alien bees, and this is the alien bee that ended up being a key source right here. I think this, what is it called? This is probably just there for something else. This stand does not have light on. This lighting over here, I used it at times, and sometimes I didn't use it because certain models were wearing dark outfits, and dark hair, so I needed some extra light. And on the other hand, there were models wearing all bright, like this, so I needed a little less light.
Mhm.
Um, so this other source was just giving me a little bit of fill. I bounced it off of the reflector. It wasn't directed onto the model, but you can see how the fill that's almost laying down creates a nice texture in the sand. My biggest struggle here was not to make images look flat, because I, well, it's a rare experiment that I created. I don't normally shoot that way. I don't use that many lights. I probably use two as max, maybe three. This was three lights as well, but the circumstances were different. I had to be mindful of the background. I had to be mindful of the environment, and not only I wanted to light my model well, I also wanted the whole look to be, having depth, because that would be the worst, to have a flat image.
Yeah.
Well, at least to me, yeah, I wouldn't find it very pleasing.
And it's very easy with the sun because it's very reflective too.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it's not very easy with the sun because
but it's
it's
easy
very
to get it to look flat, right?
yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
and this whole concept came from one photo shoot. Uh, it was a campaign, and I think it was Roberto Cavalli, if I'm not mistaken. It was probably eyewear that Ciara advertised. It was photographed in dunes, and there's this place. I'm not fully sure where it is, but there's like abandoned city, like a little abandoned town, and these houses, they have sand in there because it's in a desert. So that really gave me the whole idea of recreating a similar look, and we ended up having beach inside of the interior, basically.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about finding models for something like this because probably not every model is ready to dye their hair and just going on a journey like that with you. So tell me more about this. Do you usually negotiate with models or it is the hairdressing salon?
It really depends. Sometimes models just want to experiment and they don't mind coloring their hair. So it's always better to have natural hair color opposed to a wig. There's so many things you can do though. There are tape-in extensions, so basically patches of hair that you can put in between your natural color and blend them to there's transition. There is like a halo type, so basically like a little like a band, and then you have hair hanging down. You can extend length like that. You can do wigs. So that photo shoot that I'm referring to, it was done for a group of hairdressers that were collaborating. So all of these are wigs, but one. This girl has her actual real hair colored this way. So it
The
was
purple one.
interesting. Yeah, the purple one.
Mhm.
So the interesting thing about this, oh, actually, this one also has her real hair color on.
So the one on the right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this one on the right, this red is her actual hair being colored that way, and the purple too.
Mhm.
Um, so with the purple, it was interesting because this look was not even meant for the photo shoot. It's just something that model wanted as a trade. Um, I'm just trying to see if I can find another. Okay, here we go. There's another shot of this same model over here. So you can
Mhm.
see how it's all blonde. So that's how her hair was, right? They dyed it blonde for a photo shoot. We added extensions, and that was like what is it called? Like a mullet type of hairstyle
Yeah.
that we photographed. But then they started coloring it purple because that's what she wanted. And before the hair dried, I was like, oh my God, this looks so good. I had to photograph it. So we ended up photographing it with the orange yellow wig. That is great because it's, complementary colors. It's
Hmm.
all this whole play on warm and cold, comes in again. And, all of these are wigs, obviously, but, some of the hair we were able to color.
Hmm. That is awesome. Okay, let's go over the comments. So there is a comment regarding the previous photo, which is this one. And Christian is asking highlighter on the body only or together with foundation.
Foundation. Highlighter everywhere because, well, not everywhere. On the areas you want to buff, let's put it that way. So
Yeah.
where I always put it is cheekbones for sure, brow bone, forehead, chin over here, and the nose. Probably not the very tip of the nose, just this part. When it comes to body, always on what is the collarbones,
Yeah.
shoulders. So all the areas that are naturally are um, prone to pick up the highlight. If you were to be outside, I would put highlighter on because that creates more depth to the body. It basically gives you um, I don't know, just body looks very healthy, glowy skin, like very natural. And of course, you want to
Absolutely.
pick the highlighter that fits the model's skin. So you wouldn't use anything that's white or silver on somebody with darker complexion. And definitely you wouldn't use a bronze toned highlighter on someone like me. Like I'm almost disappearing in this light, as you can tell. I'm so fair skinned.
Okay, that was a great advice. And I would also suggest to make sure whenever you are, for example, my last photo shoot, I had to shoot a model in a particular pose, and the makeup artist did not know that, so she put highlighter on the usual part.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the model was not really facing the camera, so you've
Ah,
got to be very particular with that. You've got to give them the knowledge beforehand,
yeah.
which is very important, because even if you put highlighters on these areas, you've got to make sure that, in my opinion, you put highlighter on the zones that will be hit from the light.
No, I agree. Like, like you just mentioned, you place also not like smothering and highlighter.
Yeah,
I prefer just putting a strip of highlighter here along the arm,
exactly.
right?
Hmm.
But then also on the back side of the arm as well. Because, like you said, when model moves, you want to be able to photograph her at all angles without feeling like makeup is not done or dealing with it later, right? So,
Yeah.
definitely be mindful and like shoulders here, like, basically all areas that naturally stand out and would pick up natural highlight. This is where you want to intensify it and place highlighter, I would say.
Hmm. Awesome. So I can see another comment from Christian, and I'm getting confused, guys. So if for some reason you're in the Facebook group of the Fashion Photography Podcast, if you guys are wondering, it's called Fashion Photography Lovers. It's awesome that you're discussing. Join us also here on YouTube. Yeah. So Christian says, we discussed this already in the Facebook group. How intense do you retouch the eyes, especially veins? What is the industry standard for that in the US? So that's an interesting question. Is there a standard? I would ask.
I don't think so. I think the standard is what the client wants. Well, that's just my approach. There's definitely my personal taste to it. I If the veins are very visible, I would touch them up. If they're minor, I wouldn't bother that much probably. I tend to keep as much of a natural look as I can. Well, yeah. Sometimes clients really insist on cleaning, the whites
Yeah.
completely. But, it's I don't think there is a standard. I would say one of the criteria would be your own style, your own judgment, and then if that's a commercial piece, what your client wants. So If they want it clean, just make it clean. If they want more natural, keep it natural. But I think in the beauty world, you sort of have to pick it up a little bit, because if it's a close up of the face, you don't want any distraction from the product. Like if we were to advertise, man, I don't even know what on this picture, highlighter, let's say, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want eyes to be having any redness in them, because that comes with a certain implication. Like you don't want to impose any agenda on them. Like you know what I mean. Like you
Yeah.
want a healthy, natural but sort of polished, perfected look.
However, yeah, however, if you remove everything, it's gonna look really, really fake.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep the balance.
And I know some retouchers make whites really, really white because they're naturally slightly more on the blue end, and they tend to desaturate them. That catches my attention instantly. And I think sometimes it may work if it's a very stylized image, but if it's more towards, natural beauty, I think that's a bit too much. I wouldn't do it.
I do desaturize a little, but just like a tiny bit. If you go all the way, it's going to be very obvious.
Yeah.
Because in an everyday conversation and in our everyday life, we're looking at those things and maybe we're not giving them so much attention. But the truth is, your brain
It
is
knows what's natural, what's
yeah,
not. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So you've got to keep those little things and those little veins and this little lack of black and white color and just actually put a color.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the last photo because we don't have much time. And in the meantime, while you're looking for, or am I going to show it? I think I was supposed to show it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the last, sorry, not the last comment, but one of the comments is let's go to the one with the highlighter. So you highlight the areas that you would dodge
In
in
post.
post, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have a trick that I can share with you guys when it comes to bright highlights. It's something I love to do. So if you go back to, if you can open that picture one more time.
Of course.
Um, so I was struggling with dodge and burn, that sometimes these highlights may seem like what is it called? Like very rough, like lines, like bright
Hmm.
lines, opposed to feel like having it naturally diffused. And if you zoom in again, for example, on the shoulder here, you can see that highlighter looks more specular, and that's what I like about it. But to achieve that look, I go to what is it called? Selective color. Uh,
Hmm.
and then I go to whites and I pull them up a little bit. So I make whites even brighter. So when it comes to areas that I highlight, it makes this highlighter look more dimensional. So
Hmm.
basically, there's like very specular, bright elements, but also there's a glare. So this whole process gives me an opportunity to create more dimension in the brightest areas. I don't know. I saw it somewhere and I really like it. So, but if I have to fake it, what I would do, I would dodge underneath a little bit, and then I would still go through the same process, selective color into the white, and then pull it out. That will also give me more dimension. So here on the arm, for example, what you can see is that highlighter is diffused, but the very middle of it is the brightest area, right? So I like the fact that you can have a little bit more dimension and depth in the bright areas as well. It doesn't look like it's just fake. It was put there. Um, it has a little bit more of a transition.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And let's go to the last photo because we don't have a lot of time. But I think your last photo is one of the photos that people can do straight away in their homes. Like not straight
Oh
away,
yeah.
but it's one of the ideas. Yeah. So let's go to this. I'm going to share it in just a second. So here you go.
Yeah, it's a product shot. I'm not gonna talk too much about it. It's a composite, so basically
Hmm.
everything you see here is fake. Um, so I didn't have this many of these lipsticks simply because they're expensive, and I was not planning on wearing them, but I really wanted it for a shoot. So I was like, I'm just going to invest in one. And I ended up, uh, making
Yeah,
more of it.
compositing it.
Yeah, compositing it together. It was photographed, piece by piece. So basically, I was holding lipstick between like these fingers, then here, and then I just ended up having three pictures of the hand and compositing my fingers later on all together.
Oh, this
Yeah,
was
that
a tough one.
it was not fun. Yeah, because you're basically messing with the physique, with the way the body looks naturally, and yeah, I probably spent the most time on this composite just because yeah, I definitely underestimated how complicated it could be.
Okay,
um,
guys. So we asked you a question. You can see it down below. Do you ever shoot behind the scenes video for your shoots? You can let us know in the comments. Yes, and tell us more about. So the main process that you had was actually on post, right?
yes.
And was it the hardest part to combine those different fingers?
Yes, basically that was probably the toughest thing because I didn't plan on it when I was shooting, and then I realized that it could be a cool idea. But even if I wanted to hold three lipsticks like this, I would not be able to because they're so slippery. So it had to be composite no matter what, even if I had that many. Because it was hard to keep it steady between just the two fingers. Needless to say, like having two more inserted, it would be so hard.
Yeah.
But you guys can see the black, I don't know, something flowing like molten lipstick tubes. Um, the whole idea of the melting plastic or molten material came from like a different place. This brand has another piece of product that I really enjoy. It's eyeshadow palette. So I photographed that and I created this. I mixed charcoal with the clear lip gloss to create that product that would just melt off because I needed it to be opaque and it had to be thick. So I found this lip gloss that's really thick, and I just mixed it with some pigment and some charcoal powder, and ended up having that sort of thing. So these molten areas were photographed dripping off of the eyeshadow palette that I haven't composited yet, and it's been like 3 years, I think, because I still can't wrap my mind around it. I struggled so much with this one, so I don't think I'm fully ready, but we'll see. Maybe after this, and because I have time on my hands, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah. Time now. No one can say anything about having time right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Not having time. Yeah. Okay. So I think there are no more comments. If you guys have one, there is a little bit of a delay, so we'll wait just a tiny bit for some comments. And I'm going to zoom out the photo so that everyone can see it. So, do you do any product shots right now?
I'm about to actually. I am collaborating with the same brand. They sent me some product and they referred to some of my work if I could just do like a little trade with them and take similar images to this one, and they referred to a few more with their product. So I'm gonna definitely work on that. And like you said, you can do it at home. You can be your own model if you know you don't have to. For products, you can create the craziest setups or set designs because product is so small, so you can craft anything you want. Like one of the ideas that I want to put out there, and something I tried to do which happened to be so hard to work with, creating really sharp ice cubes and working with ice cubes and cosmetics together. That's something you guys see, professional photographers do out there for advertising. I was very inspired. Didn't work for me because on top of just creating a cube, I wanted to freeze like jewelry pieces in there, and it wasn't clean enough or like clear. It would be getting bubbles and stuff. So yeah.
I can tell you how to make it clear because
How?
I'm also very interested in making some stuff with ice, especially now when it's hot here. I'm like, well, it's a challenge, let's do it. I would never come up with this during the winter when it's so easy, right? Okay, so a very easy way to get clear ice cubes is if you boil the water beforehand. You boil it, you freeze it, and then you have clear ice.
How have you frozen anything in that water?
No, no, I haven't
Because
tried it.
the cube itself, because I did that, the cube itself
Mhm.
turns out really beautiful. But I try to freeze lipstick in ice, and I would get bubbles all around it. So like I was getting bubbles around the product to the point where you can't really see it. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't explain it, yeah, but
It's definitely chemics. So I guess it's supposed when you're putting this lipstick, if it's hot, if the lipstick is hot, if the water is hot, if it's not, all these kinds of things can react in some way. So you've got to be careful with that. So people were asking, is this with one light only or two or three? I think we are talking about this image.
Yeah, this one was
Mhm.
two. So there's a key light, and you can see some of the blue on my hands and like in the jewelry pieces and lipsticks and the background. So that's one of my favorite signature lighting setups. That's super easy for me to do. Key light and the fill light that has blue gel on it. That's how I like it.
Awesome. Such good advice. Thank you. Okay. Hassan Sampi is asking, how do you take advantage of the downtime during the current situation? Has it affected you in any project in the pipeline?
Pipeline.
So, for those of you that are listening a little bit later,
Yeah,
um, this current situation is the coronavirus situation.
2020. Yo.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was lucky to have shot certain projects before the quarantine. So all I'm doing right now is just the post processing, which is super convenient. Currently, there is a season for hair shoots. It's starting because of all the competitions and the deadlines for hair competitions. So I'm not shooting obviously right now. That's one of the effects. I had my education schedule all lined up for spring and summer, which all got canceled. So all my trips, all my classes got canceled. So that's the downside of it, of course. I definitely have much more time to like do some administrative work, to put my things together, organize myself. I will be honest with you guys, I wasn't creative. I was doing a lot of Netflix, I was doing a lot of reality because I felt like I need this time to just regroup and I felt entitled to it. So I wasn't being very productive, but you know, I was doing go 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 throughout the year, so I felt like I deserve it. And maybe now I'll be, a little bit more proactive, productive because there's quite a few things that lined up that I would have to make myself go ahead and do. But yeah,
Yeah, I can see that on the internet. There are all these opinions of people saying, well, if you don't have the time to learn something new throughout this period, you cannot say anything afterwards and things like that. Many people are posting how much workouts they're doing per day, how many files they have ordered, and so on and so on. But the truth, in my opinion, of course, is that you should do whatever you feel like. So, for example, right now we're doing so much work for the podcast. We're constantly working on it. And the truth is, I need a little bit of time off. So, my dream right now would be a day off with just Netflix and chill, and that's it. But like the real Netflix and chill. Yeah. So
but
I just
hey,
wanted to
on the
I
other
want
hand,
right? I want to do nothing for a single day. And if anyone out there listening to looking at this video right now is in the situation where they feel like they just want to lay down for a while and not learn anything new for a couple of days, or just take a little bit of time off, it's totally fine. Do it because you probably deserve it. If you feel like you need some time off, you have probably worked a lot during the entire year.
And like, I'm just gonna share a little bit of my own vulnerability. When I go online right now, like you said, everybody's doing all these workouts, everybody's recording videos, putting out content, and I just don't feel like it. I just don't feel like doing it. It gives me anxiety because I feel like I'm missing out on so much. So on top of anxiety, I get fear of missing out. And like you said, you should do whatever you feel like. And there's definitely some pressure, but a good skill would be to resist any pressure outside of your own desire to just be proactive, active, do whatever your body needs you to do, and not feel like you're obligated. Like, we're all changed into this other mode right now, and this mode has some sort of stipulations. It comes with some sort of stipulations that you have to do all these things. I haven't been to the gym in a very long time. I'm guilty, but I'll survive. I'll come back to
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cut yourself slack. I think that's very important, not to just go crazy, because definitely many of my friends are doing it all, and I admire them, but I'm just not able to.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I haven't been to the gym for quite a while, and today we tried to do some exercises, and it was hilarious. I'm so happy the life wasn't live before that, because if you have seen me doing those exercises, you would be laughing your parts of your body off. Okay.
But
That's good. Hmm.
with the whole time that we have right now, I have found that there's life outside of internet and social media. Like, honestly, and I don't do much, but I do. Like, I started doing more cooking. I, paid started walking around the block a little bit more. So, and I found, like, I finally stopped and started smelling those quote unquote roses. Finally, there's life. Offline life is
Yeah.
still attractive, you guys. So I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure that I want to go back to that online madness.
Absolutely. I'm sure that many people will feel like that after this is over. And I'm really hoping that this is going to stay as the mentality of people, because it is so important to take a little bit of time for you, not just in a situation like this, but all of the time.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next question. How do you find your first customer, and how do you grow your business since then? Christian have also asked, who are your clients? Only the major manufacturers, or also niche clients like beauty saloons? I think he kind of has the answer now when we talked about the photo shoot.
Yeah,
Let's go
I
over it.
touched a little bit on that, and my clients are bigger brands that do sell products, and definitely individual hairdressers. I do a lot of work for hairdressing competitions. So to compete, they need to create so-called collection, which means multiple looks that have to be photographed, and then they submit those photos to competitions. So I do that as a part of my commercial work. And I definitely work with brands that produce hair color, hair care products. So these two probably my main. A little smaller side of my commercial work would be cosmetic brands, but usually I work with like female-owned one-man brand, which I really like supporting, because I'm also one-man brand, one woman brand, and it's very exciting. For smaller cosmetic brands, I photograph highlighters and glitter mostly. So
Mhm.
I get to have a lot of fun with that.
That is awesome. Okay. And you mentioned that you have an educational part of your
Yeah.
business. So let's mention where people can see this and be a part of it.
Well, it's a very niche product as well. So I teach photography to hairdressers that are very, very beginners. So basically, I teach smartphone photography to hairdressers, which I thought I
Okay.
would never do. It's really weird to me, because I had to basically learn how to work with continuous lighting, because I haven't worked with it in forever. How to work with daylight. It was very new for me. But I have a page on Instagram. It's called Hair Photography Academy. This is where I record videos for hairdressers. I share tips and tricks. I review their pages, their content. online, but then physically, I have worked for one of the big distributors here in the US. So I traveled with them to hair shows and I would have classes there. I do have my own classes that I do through. I just set them up in individual salons, and set it up through Eventbrite. So something like that. But I think I'm not going to have anything until late fall, probably. Uh, I really want to do photography classes to photographers who have a basic core knowledge where I could talk more about, conceptualizing and maybe some set design, maybe some makeup products, and unconventional use of different products. That's something I would really enjoy. Haven't really done it. Scared to death of doing it because when I teach the hairdressers, it's like little babies. You
Yeah.
share a little bit of knowledge, and here I would have to probably provide a little bit more of a wholesome advice. And yeah, I feel a little rusty when it comes to that. So one day, though.
Yeah, one day at a time. Plus.
True.
Okay, so we've got your Instagram down there and people can see it. While I'm asking the final question, you
Yes.
said that you're shooting a lot of hair and you're famous for it. So, what would be your advice on how to shoot hair with a very basic kit, let's say?
So it really depends on, well, first of all, shooting hair is very similar to shooting skin. So all the lighting, knowledge you have when it comes to shooting skin applies to hair. So hard lighting would pick up more imperfections. Soft lighting would be more forgiving, but still hard lighting would give you more highlights and catch lights and more depth, more drama, while soft lighting would be a little bit more flat. So all of that really, anything that you know about shooting skin will be applied to shooting hair. Um, so lighting definitely is a big one. Also depends on your goal. Like, what kind of texture are you shooting? Is this a smooth style like this? You would want to show like some catch lights and some dimension. If you're shooting really textured hair, like African American hair, for example, you would want maybe a little softer lighting because specular light would kill a lot of texture. You would see only fine highlights and very deep shadows, but you would want to see a little bit. Well, the whole image would have way too much contrast, and you kind of want to minimize it. So you would want a little bit softer lighting for that. So I think learning maybe what texture you're dealing with and what the goal is, because after the technical aspect and understanding what you're shooting, there's creative aspect as well. So you would want to know what is the vibe or the mood you're going for. Is it more dramatic image? Is this more of a like a sweet, light, airy, earthy, ethereal sort of image. So I think that really comes in play. It's a complex thing, but it's no different from fashion photography or beauty photography when it comes to anything like cosmetics. It's very, very similar. It's just maybe you would want to focus more on different textures and learning how to work with them. So my favorite graded beauty dish is not gonna do it all, That's what I'm trying to say. Like you have to know different modifiers. You have to have some knowledge in your arsenal to be able to complete a wide range of tasks.
Do you think that we can do some amazing hair photography along with just one light?
Oh, definitely. And that's my recommendation. That's what I recommend. Any beginner photographer, start with just one light, get the most out of it, get as many setups as you possibly can, educate yourself, and then add second light and third light. Each light has to serve a purpose, but if you don't know what exactly you want from it, how can you use it, right? So definitely start with just one light, and majority of my shoots probably are monolight because it ends up giving me both a dramatic look but also a very focused look, um, yeah, so definitely one light is the way to start, the way to go.
Christian's asking for some tips on where he can learn more about hair retouching.
Hair retouching is like the best kept secret. I think people are, not giving it out because it's very complex. It's the most hated type of retouching out there because it takes so much time. And unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. I tried them, they don't work well. I'm just going to tell you that right away. Like, I really tried doing the frequency separation and, like, make my whole process a little bit more automatic. It's not a way to go. So my favorite tools is clone stamp, spot healing brush, and healing brush. These three are the ones I use. But when it comes to where to learn, I would say YouTube, of course. There are quite a few good YouTubers out there that have great advice. Retouching Academy by Julia Kuzmenko is one of the great sources. I think she probably nailed, the fact. Well, also, she sells retouching panels that you can use to make your workflow a little convenient and make it faster. So I would say check her out. She is a great source. There's a few more whose names I can't pronounce, but yeah, definitely there are people out there who provide education on hair retouching. Yes.
That was awesome. Okay, I want to say a big, big thank you for being our very first guest. It
Oh, my
was
pleasure.
amazing
It's such an
honor.
honor.
I would like to suggest to people to follow you, of course, on Instagram and check out your website, which is also right over here. And you can see it, guys. I'm going to stick to the Instagram because I know that your website is also linked there so they can easily click through it. And I want to say again, big thank you. I would like to ask you to wait for me for just a little.
Yes.
And you can say your final words here in front of the people. I would love to have you again, by the way, in the future when you've got some work that you want to share. That would be amazing.
Sure. Just want to say thank you to everybody who joined us and to those particularly who asked questions, because having questions out there really helps to, have the flow and understand what you guys are looking for. That was amazing. I know my work is sort of like in between the worlds, a little bit of beauty. Some of it has, more hair incorporated, more cosmetic. Some of it has like more body involved, more fashion sort of. So it's a little bit all over the place, but still, thank you for joining me and, giving us really great questions, asking something that so many of the viewers or whoever listens to us would find very useful. So that was amazing, and I'm very honored to be the first person. This is, yeah, the whole experience is very new to me. It's like so much fun to do this because I have never done anything like it.
Me
Um,
neither. Not as a host with guests, to be honest. So this is very exciting for me too. I think it's going well. I would like to ask the people to stay here in the live because I'm going to reveal who's going to be the next guest. Yes, you can stay with us. Please don't hang up. Just wait for me
okay.
for just a little. Guys, you can tell to our gorgeous guest in the comments, thank you so much, and share what you think. Was it helpful for you? This is going to be amazing knowledge for us also to have. And thanks again. I'm going to end this now and show to the people who's going to be our next guest next Monday. And along with that, you guys are going to receive a little challenge from our guest next week. So let's go and see this. Okay, I'm gonna need just a minute to switch to desktop and show it to you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Rossella Vanon. The Fashion Photography Podcast and I would like to challenge you to take a photo using common household items in a way that they are not recognizable or visible at all in the picture. You would have to think creatively here. Glasses, forks, paper, anything that's lying around the house works, but can you use it in a way so that whoever looks at the picture can't guess what it is that you've used and how? Uh, Filtering the light, holding in front of the lens. Get creative and have fun. Hi, I'm Rossella Vanon.